Hello and welcome to Spectrum News at 9. I am Janice Kabum, coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State. Let's take a look. Federal Government Commission signs television in Abuja. Plus, US says classified documents leak, serious risk to national security. We'll bring you details of these stories and more in a moment. Good evening and thanks for joining us on the news once again. Our first report tonight is an update from President Muhammadu Buhari, who has arrived in Medina, Saudi Arabia to commence an 8-day official visit to the Middle East at Prince Mohammed bin Abdulaziz's International Airport, Medina. While in Medina, the president would be observing the 5 daily prayers as well as the Taraweeh prayer at the Masjid Nabawi before departing for Makkah via Jeddah late on Wednesday, 4 April 11 to 19, would be Buhari's last trip to the kingdom as president. In the meantime, Ado-Ekiti, the Ekiti state capital, will soon turn into a major economic hub as President Muhammadu Buhari today trade and investment Otumba Adeniyi Adebayo to President Buhari seeking a free zone status for Ekiti knowledge zone. The approval of the request was conveyed in a letter signed by the Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gambari. From Nigerians for diversifying economy of the country from oil. Additionally noted that Buhari's administration met a monoproduct economy depending solely on oil. He said the country development. The presidency has said that the appointment of service chiefs is not subject to federal character principle and ethnic balancing. Presidential spokesman Femi Adesina stated this while speaking in an interview. He has the prerogative to appoint those he feels are competent and can do the job of securing Nigeria against terrorist attack. And Innovation STI Adeleke Mamora, who commissioned the project in Abuja. The station would educate and entertain as well as publicize scientific discoveries, inventions and achievements of the various parastatals under the ministry. He added that the television, which is under the purview of the Ministry of Innovations in the sector. We move now to another story where the federal government through the Minister of Women Affairs, Pauline Talon, has pledged support for the welfare of persons living with disabilities in the country. Talon also called on well-meaning Nigerians to take aid materials to some people living with disabilities in Abuja by the Sir David Osunde Foundation today. The minister noted that the government would continue to support initiatives that focus on humanitarian activities tailored towards the non-privileged individuals in the society. NPC has commenced hearing into the missing oil. The committee, headed by Mark Wheeler, commenced the investigation today with an appearance by the Code of Conduct Bureau. It would be recalled that the Green Chambers had resolved DC had sold 48 million barrels of oil in China, but failed to remit the money into the Federation accounts. The Speaker of the House, Femi Gbajabiamila, in his opening remarks, said the committee has the mandate to investigate the missing crude oil and total reveal the true situation of things. We move now to judicial matters, where a High Court of the Federal Capital Territory (FCT) has halted the federal government from trespassing, acquiring or taking over some plots of land. Meke of the FCT High Court in Maitama issued the order while delivering ruling in a motion on notice brought by the trustees of the Association of Plot Owners and 11 others against the federal government. The judge, in addition, restrained President Buhari, the minister of the said landed property, pending the hearing and determination of the lawsuit. Meanwhile, hearing of the substantive suit has been fixed for June 20, 2023. Still on judicial matters, a Zuba Magistrate Court in Abuja has denied Obiajulu Uja bail and a Ibom Air passenger are 29, 2023. Today, the ruling in the bail application filed by Uja through his counsel, Senior Magistrate Muhammad Ismail, held that the application was premature. It would be recalled that the lawyer to Obiajulu, Ejike Ugu, had said the accused is mentally challenged, but the court held in mind. He then adjourned until April 20 for a report and hearing. Moving now to education, where the management of Ekiti State University Ado-Ekiti has announced the suspension of all academic activities in the institution for 2 weeks. EXU management had announced that late payment of school fees would attract a 10,000 naira penalty fee, but the students expressed their dissatisfaction, and this made the management reduce the fee to 5,000. However, the students rejected the 5,000 reduction. The protest, which started at 7:30 a.m. today, had the students converge. The National Population Commission (NPC) has urged field workers currently undergoing a 4-day training in Bauchi State to utilize the opportunity of the capacity building exercise to rededicate themselves to the Commission's work. This, according to the NPC, would enable the Commission generate credible, reliable and acceptable data for development planning purposes. The NPC's Federal Commissioner Katafawa Balewa University in Bauchi expressed satisfaction with the training process. According to him, the training would aid in the shaping the proficiency of the participants, as they would also train others at the local government level. Professional during the recently held general elections, saying the nation is proud of the professionalism displayed all through the electioneering period. The COAS gave the commendation at Olunshan, against Barracks Officers Mess, Maiduguri, Borno State. Yahaya, who was represented by Theater Commander Operation Hadinkai Koko Isani, paid tribute to fallen heroes and wounded personnel receiving medical attention across military facilities. The Army Chief, who led other generals to serve wounded personnel at the event, assured them. Still on security matters, the Eastern Naval Command of the Nigerian Navy has arrested 27 vessels engaged in illegal bunkering and crude oil theft and deactivated 294 illegal refinery sites. The outgone flag officer commanding Eastern Naval Command, Ibrahim Dewu, made this known today. In the arrests were made between the period he assumed office as flag officer of the command in February 4, 2022, and when he left the command on April 11, 2023. He sat within the period under review. From February 4, 2022 to date, the sustained operations led to the arrest of 27 vessels engaged in illegal bunkering. We move now to Kaduna State, where the government today commended troops of the Nigerian Army for neutralizing one bandit's leader, Isiya Damwasa. A statement by Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Kaduna across the state. He said the bandit's leader was neutralized during a strategic ambush operation in the Sabon Burning General area of Igabi local government area. The statement commended the military troops for their diligent intelligence work and precise execution, which led to the demise of Danwasa and his associate agencies for their proactiveness in taming the recent wave of insecurity in the state. Adeleke also lauded the police for the arrest and prosecution of suspects in recent criminal cases. The governor, who was represented by his secretary to the state government, Teslim, nabbing of some cultors involved in recent criminal conducts. And back here, Akwa Ibom State Governor Udom Emmanuel yesterday led top government the event, which was held at the State Banquet Hall Government House Uyo, featured the rendition of various melodious tunes by different groups, ministries, security chiefs, and the governor's aides, among others, in commemoration of the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And still to come in the news, IMF revives. Many thanks for still being there. Now to the rest of our stories. Moving now to Africa, where ruling coalition has named individuals who will represent the government in negotiations with the opposition. The 7-man member team of 5 MPs and 2 senators was announced after a meeting chaired by President William Ruto today. The opposition names its team last week. It would be recalled that earlier this month, President Ruto agreed to talks with the opposition on electoral reform, suspended recent protests, but insists that the clergy and non-state groups be involved too. Still in Kenya, where MPs are set to debate a report that proposes that parliamentary team reviewing the Kenya-UK Defence Cooperation Agreement. It follows public outrage after allegations that British soldiers may have been involved in the murder of Agnes, accused of a cover-up, but the UK's Ministry of Defence later said it was cooperating with a Kenyan inquiry into the death. Meanwhile, Kenyan lawmakers on the Defense Committee also commended that visiting troops should be obliged to serve the local communities through corporate social responsibility. A 5-year sentence after being convicted for abuse of office, Olade Musa was sentenced in 2020 to 6 years in prison over corruption linked to illegal issuing of passports. Meanwhile, Homeland Security Minister Ken Zikale says his release was an act of mercy in the Easter season. Reports say Musa his involvement in the passport scam was during the tenure of former President Joyce Banda. Still in Africa now, Sudanese civilian groups and the ruling junta have missed Tuesday's deadline to form a civilian-led transitional government amid disagreement on security reforms as other officials of a civilian-led government. Reports say the deadline elapsed after the parties failed to sign a final transition deal on 1st and 6th April over disagreements on the integration of the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces RSF led the talks for one day for further consultation. Meanwhile, protests have continued in several places in Ethiopia's Amara region for a 6th consecutive day in opposition to use. Despite such restrictions, including a ban on public gatherings, protests are showing no sign of subsiding. Rallies have been held in multiple towns, with clashes reported in Debrian, 130 kilometers north of the capital, Addis Ababa, and took to the streets. And elsewhere, Niger has started the registration of guns owned by civilians. The exercise conducted by the Internal Affairs Ministry aims to document all small firearms. The measure comes in the wake of renewed attacks by armed militia in parts of the country. Recall that on Monday night, unknown gunmen attacked two villages in Madaruf area of Maradi and the south of the West African nation. Baseless allegations in leaked Pentagon documents that Cairo planned to secretly produce and supply Russia with 40,000 missiles. The denial by an unnamed source has been carried out by several pro-government news channels. The documents were obtained by a Washington Post from a leaked trove of U.S. defense. And elsewhere, police in Tunisia's capital have reportedly forcefully removed homeless sub-Saharan Africans who had been camping outside UN buildings in Tunis for several weeks. Many black Africans have been seeking repatriation. They were part of a conspiracy to change the demographic composition of the North African country, which was predominantly Arab Muslim culture. In a related development, a leading U.S. Senator, Chris Murphy, has today called on Europe long-term damage through his power grabs. Murphy, who leads the Senate Subcommittee on Relations with the Middle East, also faulted President Joe Biden, a fellow Democrat, for maintaining U.S. assistance to Tunisia's military. Recall that Tunisia reached, but the bailout still needs approval by the IMF board, which is pressing for reforms primarily on the economy. On the foreign scene now, Pentagon has said that the leak of highly sensitive U.S. documents investigated by the Justice Department and appears to include secret information on the war in Ukraine, as well as sensitive analysis of U.S. allies, whom American officials are now seeking to reassure. A steady drip of dozens of photographs weeks, if not months, before they began to receive media attention last week. According to Assistant to the Secretary of Defense for Public Affairs, Chris McGah, the documents circulating online pose a very serious risk to national security and have the potential to spread disinformation. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden has officially ended the COVID national health emergency that for more than 3 years. The White House said Biden signed a law passed earlier by Congress which terminates the national emergency related to the COVID-19 pandemic. This reportedly closes lavish funding streams for COVID tests, free vaccines, and other emergency measures thrown together starting in January 2020 to try and free the world's biggest economy from the grip of the global pandemic. And still on the foreign scene, speaking at the EU today, French President Emmanuel Macron spoke of his vision for a new era of European sovereignty. Was closely watched after he said in an interview that Europe must not be a follower of either Washington or Beijing on Taiwan. Making the first state visit by a French president to the Netherlands for 23 years, Macron and his wife, Brigitte, were greeted by Dutch King Willem Alexander and Queen Maxima on their arrival in Amsterdam. In the main for Russian men to avoid the draft, more than 300,000 are believed to have been called up since President Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine last year. The UN says the confirmed civilian death toll in Ukraine is approaching 8,500, but that several thousands more unverified deaths are feared. Britain's Ministry of Defense today said that there was a serious level of inaccuracy in a widely reported leak of alleged classified documents to assess the damage to national security and related with allies and other countries, including Ukraine. as the country has resumed electricity exports to Europe. Galushenko said it is the first time exports have resumed since they were suspended in October due to Russian attack on critical infrastructure. According to him, the strike caused sweeping power outages for civilians and industries, forcing workers to work overtime in trying to repair the grid. The energy minister added that. And it's now time for the latest business and stock market stories. And here is Blyden Ukem.
Thank you, Janice Cobhams. Good evening. It's another business day, and my name is Blyden Ukem. In the news, IMF revises global growth forecast lower. The IMF revised its global growth forecast lower to 2.8% from 2.9% for 2023, and sent deterioration in financial conditions and the ongoing war in Ukraine. Meanwhile, according to reports, global inflation is seen decreasing to 7% this year from 8.7% in 2022 on the back of lower commodity prices, but the core consumer price index is likely to decline more slowly. In Brazil, annual inflation rate in Brazil fell to 4.65% in March. Inflation is the rate at which prices for goods and services rise. It is also the first time in over 2 years the inflation stays within the central bank's 1.75 to 4.75 target range. Inflation slowed for food, beverages, and personal expenses in February, while compared to the previous month, the consumer price index rose 0.71%, below 0.84% in February, and forecast of 0.78%. The biggest upward impact came from transport prices, namely gasoline at 8.33% and ethanol 3.2% after the return of the federal tax, according to the 2022 Importation Bill from the National Bureau of Statistics (NBS). According to reports, the decline in importation bills occurred the same year that Kano, Kaduna and Lagos state government banned the operation of commercial motorcycles, also known as Okada, on major roads. The state government had blamed insecurity and multiple accidents involving motorstates. Data from the Statistics Bureau showed that the value of motorcycles imported into the country nosedived from 367.39 billion naira expended in 2021. The Nigerian stock market closed trading with 28.3 trillion naira today. The figure was 569.1 billion naira, or a negative 2% lower than the 28.86 trillion naira posted by the bourse last Thursday. The All-Share Index dipped by 1,041.14 basis points to close at 51,952.99 points, down from 52,994.13 points achieved last week. Per share. Airtel Africa topped losers table after shedding 133 naira 10 kobo to drop from 1,331 naira 10 kobo to 1,198 naira per share. Transcorp leads this news, and back to Janice Cobhams for the rest of the news.
Many thanks, Blyden Ukem. And still to come in the news. Osimhen to miss Champions League quarterfinals first leg. Do stay with us. Many thanks for still being there. In health, medical bodies in the country have set the United Kingdom government code of practice for international recruitment of health and social care personnel will not stop Nigerian doctors from migrating to other countries. Reports say the Nigerian Medical Association and the Nigerian health workers should not be actively recruited. The UK explained that the 54 countries were those the World Health Organization recognized as having most pressing health and care workforce-related challenges. Reacting to the restriction, the NMA president, Dr. Uche Ujima, in an interview with newsmen, said Nigerian doctors migrate to other pediatric hematologists and oncologists at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital. Damisan Temiye has said nursing mothers whose babies are unable to display social smile during breastfeeding should be worried. According to him, it could be a sign of autism or cerebral palsy, noting that the commonest cause of cerebral palsy is birth asphyxia. Considered milestones used in measuring the growth and development of babies, urging that mothers should be worried about the development of their babies when they are not showing these signs. League quarterfinals first leg with AC Milan after failing to recover in time from a high injury picked up on international duty. Napoli star player and Serie A striker did not take part in team training today, doing individual work in the morning sessions, and he was left out of the squad announced today before Luciano Spalletti's outfit travel to Milan. Taking Siemens' place could be Italy international Giacomo Raspadori, who did participate with the rest of the squad in today, suffered a hamstring injury. Still in sports, Barcelona striker Robert Lewandowski has said he would like to play alongside Paris Saint-Germain's forward Lionel Messi in the incoming season. Messi has been linked with a move away from their academy product. Barca's Vice President Rafa Yutte revealed that they are in touch with the World Cup winner and his father George Messi, currently discussing with them. Meanwhile, Chelsea defender Ben Chilwell had an injury-plagued spell over the last 2 seasons, but Chelsea were keen to extend his stay at Stamford Bridge. The 26-year-old left-back signed from Leicester City in 2020 was part of the Chelsea squad that won the Champions League in 2021. According to reports, a ruptured cruciate knee ligament ruined Chilwell's 2021-2022 season, and he has also missed 3 months of this camp. Chilwell. On entertainment news, the actor who played the role of Eleven on Stranger Things, Millie Bobby Brown, revealed her engagement with Jake Bon Jovi at age 19. She announced on Instagram today that she was set to marry Jake after 2 years of dating. The Netflix actor posted a picture with her. Meanwhile, popular comedian Bright Okpocha, well known as Basket Mouth, has revealed why he wants to quit comedy. Recall that the multi-talented entertainer last year made known his intention to resign from the rib-cracking industry in a few years' time. Featuring on the recent episode of the Honest Bunch podcast, Basket Mouth said he wants to resign from comedy to focus on his dream of creating. And finally, tonight, veteran Nigerian music producer Michael Ajere, popularly known as Don Jazzy, has urged Nigerian artists to emulate Davido's format in promoting their projects. Reports say Davido has been on a media tour for his recently released 4th studio album, Timeless, in the United States. While lauding the singer's music promotion strategies for his latest album, Don Jazzy in a tweet advised other Nigerians to act to emulate him agorously. And that's all we have for you tonight. Do well to follow us on all our social media handles. My name is Janice Cobham. Do have a good night.